Now, the first episode of Oshinokoi is one of the best first episodes I've seen in a long time, and I've watched over 800 plus anime, and that's a lot to say that this one is one of the best I've seen because that first episode was phenomenal. There were so many things that I liked about it that I saw, but I'm gonna say this right now: if you've not seen the first episode of Oshinokoi, please leave and come back and watch this video later, because this is one of them animes where I have to go in detail about this first whole episode, and I do not want to spoil anything because this is one of them anime that you need to just watch for yourself. Watch this first episode. Trust me, it's worth it. I will say this: the episode is long. It is an hour and 22 minutes, so set some time aside and watch this. So this is just a little spoiler warning right now because I'm going to be talking about spoilers this whole video. But yeah, that out the way, let's get into this first episode. Now, when it comes to Oshinokoi, this first episode, I am surprised I sat through and actually watched this whole thing, because like I said, it's an hour and 22 minutes, and that's surprising for me because that's a long time. That's basically movie length for a lot of like short anime movies, and I actually sat through this and watched it all. The funny thing is, I have not even watched the new Attack on Titan episode, which is like an hour long, but Oshinokoi, it was so engaging from start to finish. And it was just one of them ones that, yeah, I was like, yeah, I needed to watch this, and that's why I watched this. Now, when it comes to this episode, they adapted 10 chapters, and they adapted them amazingly. Because the story that's basically told in this anime is the prelude to the whole actual story, because this is just backstory that we need until we can get to, like, the real story of this, which is going to happen in episode 2 and onwards. So if you read the manga, you know. So that's the one thing I really think this episode shines in, is that we get all this backstory in one full episode. Because usually this is something that will get split up between like 3.5 to 4 episodes, because that's about like the length this episode was, because it was an hour and 22 minutes. I don't think this would have had the same impact if it wasn't the full hour long and 22 minutes compared to if it would have been split into multiple different episodes, because the impact we needed was like amazing, because from start to finish we get this backstory on Ai, and then all the way at the end, you know what happens. But yeah, let's get into some of the things I really enjoyed. So when it comes to this first episode, the one thing I enjoyed a lot was how it made us care for all these characters, from the doctor, from Ruby, from Aqua, especially when the doctor, like, you know, becomes, you know, Aqua, from Ai, from even the manager's wife, like all these characters that are important to the story. We just kind of feel something for them because of what they all go through and like certain things they do. So the anime basically follows the doctor at the beginning. We learn about him, how he's basically obsessed with this idol named Ai, and like the main reason why he was obsessed with her was because he had this patient named like Sabrina. And like he was really close with this patient, and it's shown like even like in the anime and the manga, it's shown that like how close they were. And like there's even a joke at one time when he's talking about, like, she's talking about, oh, marry me, doctor, and he's like, yeah, dog. He's like, no, I do not want to be a social reject. And he jokes and says like around the lines of I'll maybe consider it when you're 16. And you see when she says like 16 because it's hinting that like she was gonna pass away way before that, because she did not have that long to live. And the doctor was trying to say something in the future, like how he wants to see her grow, but she knew that she did not have that long to live. That's why like when it's that little detail that's said there, she says 16 doctor, and then she says like, you're mean. And like this, it just shows that like she knew that she was gonna die and that she didn't have that long to live. But like I like the little relationship between right there, just because it shows that the doctor, like, he felt something for the patient, meaning like because it was a patient he always went to, and like he just felt sad, and like a way that he can remember the patient was like through, because he knew that she was like very obsessed with his idol. So like he just supports the idol because he just feels that little connection that he did have with this patient that passed away, because that was a patient's room that he always went into a lot, and he actually got to know her, and then she passed away. And he, you know, it's one of them little things that you just have that thing, just fond memory of remembering a character. So yeah, that happens, and eventually he does meet Ai. And the thing about Ai is that she's pregnant, and she's an idol, and she's also 16. So one, we get teen pregnancy. That's something that's usually not talked about a lot in anime, especially not in anime, but we know in other media, you know, you've had shows like Teen Mom. We know in real life, if you went to high school, you know that a lot of people our age, you know what they're doing. We literally had certain education things that's factor around certain things. So, you know, kids at 16, they have babies. So like this just relates to stuff that actually happens in the real world. But also, it's the fact that she's an idol, and she has to hide this because, you know, idols have crazy ass fans, and like they have to hide stuff from their fans, from either having boyfriends, childs, any type of relationship, because them fans are very crazy. And we see in this episode with the foreshadowing of her stalker, of like how crazy these fans actually are. And it just highlights and shows this throughout the episode, because one, the doctor, he sees like the resolve that Ai has, and he's like, yo, I'm gonna help you have a healthy birth and all this. And you see that the stalker ends up killing him. And at that moment, one of the things that I think this episode really highlights is when somebody's passing away, it shows just like how they're slowly but surely losing their life. Because like at that moment when the doctor's dying, we see that his slowly but surely, it just seems like his soul is just like leaving his body, and we can see that he's passing away. And then like we get a little moment where he's remembering Serena, and like there's a moment he's just sitting there talking to her, so he's just remembering that until he finally wakes up as a baby. So there's just little things like that that I just remember, that is just like when like his passing away, it just seemed like you could just see the emotion leaving his body, as like having that regret of actually not being able to help I have a successful birth since he was passing away. And he was just, because like that's something he wanted to do, but you see he's slowly dying because he got pushed off and, you know, passed away. But let's get into when they get reincarnated, because I've seen a lot of random discourse of people not knowing the difference between what a isekai is and a random reincarnation anime, because this is just a reincarnation anime. This is not isekai. These niggas do not go to another world. They're in the same world. And also, there's no time difference besides like what, a little bit, like a few minutes, if that, because he gets reincarnated as Ai's baby. So it's like, dog, it's not like he got reincarnated somewhere like thousands of years in the future. It's like, no, this is just a random reincarnation anime. It goes in that genre. This is not a isekai. Dog, isekai is when you get reincarnated in another world, or, you know, you go to a portal and go to another world. This is not no isekai. This is just a regular reincarnation anime, because I've seen some discourse of people not understanding this is not a isekai, like, at all. I don't know how. It's because, I mean, there's a lot of people that have never even watched isekai to actually know what isekai is. They just know people get reincarnated and they think that's always isekai. But yeah, I'm done with that little rant right there. But yeah, once they get reincarnated as Aqua and Ruby, this is when the story takes off, because we see that Ai wants to have a healthy family, because she's basically from an orphanage and she never really had a family, so she doesn't know what true love is and all this other things. So she wants to raise this family and make enough money that she can put them through college and all this, so they can have a good life. So we just see that she's trying to be a good parent because she never had parents in her own life. And that's when we get to learn more about Ruby and Aqua, and we learn that Aqua was the doctor, and we learn that Ruby was also the patient, Sharina, and we learn about them, and we see like how they do funny things, because they both realize like, oh, we can actually talk, like fully talk, and we understand stuff because, one, we had past lives and we have our memories. One of the things that I really like in this anime that I wish isekai would do, especially a certain isekai, is the doctor remembers that he's actually is an adult, so he realizes certain things that he shouldn't do. That's like when Ai's gonna feed him some milk and he's like, nah, I don't want this, I want the bottle, because he's remembering that he was an adult grown man, and he's like, nah, I'd rather have the bottle. Where, you know, in certain isekai, when they get reincarnated, they act like they were not adults even though they're turning to kids. Now I just like that aspect where it shows that it's like, wow, finally somebody that got reincarnated has some common sense and realizes what they actually were in their past life. Oh my gosh, wow. You know, we barely get those where people actually realize they were adult. I mean, this is one of the anime that actually realize they're adult and they know what they're doing. But yeah, you know, a lot of reincarnation anime, they always act weird sometimes. I'll just say that though. But yeah, that was just one moment that just made me like, wow, that's so refreshing. Like, we never get nothing like that. Like, wow. Like, usually they just act like the kid or whatever, and they act and do all these ethically wrong things they know they should not be doing. But hey, actually somebody that has a brain and can think, wow, phenomenal. One of the things that I did like in this anime a lot was just like how we saw Ai transition from like being this regular idol that was like kind of small time to like, once Aqua goes into that movie and shows off Ai, that we see Ai just like take off. And I mean, she takes off and becomes very popular. By the time she's like age 20 or whatever, we see like how popular she is. Also, I like the relationship between Aqua and Ruby when it comes to like the one manager's wife, and how they basically get her under their control, because she was gonna like lose her mind because she was like, why am I babysitting? And then like eventually we see like how close they get, especially towards the end when something happens, and then like, you know, she's like, yo, I can be your adopted mother. And it was just like, yeah, we saw like the connection all of them had, because like as they were going on, you saw this connection, because like she was taking them to movie things and actually having a little connection with them. And I was like, wow, that's actually kind of sweet that they, you know, the relationship was actually growing from there. Let's get into some of the other things that we have not mentioned yet, and that is the final scene, which a lot of people talk about, but I feel like the whole anime is just really good because it leads up that whole way. So when it comes to the final scene, one thing this anime was foreshadowing a lot is the stalker. Now, if you know anything about idol culture, you know that idols do get stalkers and fans that are very obsessed with them. And this one highlights, if you've seen something like Perfect Blue, you know how that just shows like stalkers, and like how that highlights stalkers when it comes to idol industry and all that. But this one, we get so much foreshadow of him, because we basically get introduced to him as soon as he kills the doctor. And then we see like as Ai is like growing and becoming popping, we see that he's pissed off in his room and like talking about how she has kids, all this other type of thing. So we just get that foreshadowing that this stalker eventually might meet Ai again because of like how crazy he is. So I just like that we did get that foreshadowing there. And another thing I really like that they highlight in here is how when it comes to the idol industry and also the entertainment industry, how everybody just lies and like everything's just built on lies. And especially Ai as a character, because we get so much detail about her, how basically she never had a loving family and how she basically essentially does not love her fans, mainly because she does not know what love is. So she just lies about everything. And we see on the internet, even people talk about her smile, how her smile seems fake. But then when we get the when we get the funny ass scene of Aqua and Ruby there and they're at her concert, and you know they're doing the one idol thing like that, it's hilarious. Like we saw that an actual general smile happens, and then she learns from that and she's like, oh, so this is how I need to smile. So we just see that basically everything she's like wrapped around is like all wrapped around lies, because like in this industry people just lie. And like even when she first meets the manager tells her like, yo, you don't have to love these fans, you can actually lie about this because that's how stuff happens. So that's one little thing that I really liked. It was like how it just highlighted in the industry that it's just like how this industry actually is, how everybody's just lying their way through stuff, and it just shows and highlights that. That's one thing I really enjoyed about it. Now let's talk about this animation, because the animation was good. There's one scene where the animation made me geek out so crazy, and that's the final scene when we know the heartbreaking scene that makes everybody sad, and that's when Ai gets stabbed and you know she dies, and then she finally tells Aqua and all of them like how it was so hard for her to actually like say I love you to them, and she finally says she loves them to them. So throughout the whole anime we see that Ai has these bright stars in her eye, and that kind of just shows that like, yo, she's going to be a big star, something like that. I guess you could say it kind of like relates to that in a way. That's what it seems like. That's at least what I saw. It just seems like she's going to be a big star. That's why her eyes are so bright. But then when we get to that final scene when she's passing away, we see the stars in her eyes slowly but surely fade away until there's nothing but like empty space. That scene, oh my gosh, that scene right there with the eyes, I was losing my mind, because that is some crazy good animation right there, just because it showed the emotion so much, just because it showed her slowly but surely just passing away, especially because the stars that were in her eyes was something we've seen the whole episode, but then we see it slowly but surely fading away as she dies until there's just nothing there. Oh my gosh, like I remember reading the manga, like you see I have the manga right there, the first volume. Like even when I was reading the manga I thought that scene was crazy, but the anime, oh my gosh, they adapted that part so well. It was so good. Like this was an amazing first episode that everybody needs to watch. If you've not seen this, please watch it. If you even got through all this that I've been talking about, I don't know how you've not watched it. If you have seen the first episode, let me know how you felt about it in the comments. I will say this, all the critique I've seen on this episode is a lot of people just hating, because there's generally nothing in this episode that you could really critique. Like there's little things you could be nitpicking at, but there's not nothing generally that was bad about this episode. It's mainly that people are mad because people are calling this anime of the year, or you know, it went to my anime list. Like who cares about my anime list? Why do you care about my anime list, dog? It's 2023. Why should you be caring about my anime list? Because it's #1 on there. Like dog, who cares about that website? But yeah, I know there's little critiques like that, and other people have just been saying stupid stuff. I have not seen a real opinion that actually expresses like generally like what's wrong with this, is our actual criticism. Have not seen nothing. It's usually just people saying, oh, this is mid, and it's mainly because people, you know, whenever something's popular, people love to hate on shit, because people are just haters. There's a lot of people that just hate on shit for no damn reason at all though. Another thing that I really did like that was highlighted in this was like when it comes to like their past trauma, when it comes to Aqua and Ruby, but especially Ruby, because like the scene when like she's like scared of dancing because she remembers her past of how she was always sick, and every time like she would get up to like stand, she would always like have to prepare herself to fall. And we see like when her and I are talking, and I's like, yo, she's like, the way you're doing this, you're preparing yourself that you're gonna fall. And we see that she has that memory of just like how she always used to fall all the time, because she still remembers how she was sick, even though she knows she has this new body. So there's that little trauma right there. And then when it comes to the doctor, he just remembers everything and how he wants to like change stuff, because when we get to the end, we see that he's basically trying to get revenge now, and wants to get it like maybe on the father, whoever their father is, wants to get revenge, because it's just like, yo, how did the stalker get here? And you see that he's actually trying to become a star too, because he's even talking to the director like, yo, I want to, you know, I want you to basically raise me, because I want to get this shit done, that I can find whoever it is that actually did this to Ai. So like that's where it's like the little revenge story that gets put in place like towards the end. And also one of the things I found that was funny is like when he's doing the movie, how his acting was like him just being himself, and then like the one girl was crying because she was full of herself because she thought she was big time, because she's actually been in like movies, little small movie parts or whatever, so she thought she was big time because she's a child actor. And then he just came here and he's just like, yeah dog, I'm being myself, and this shit was like easy. I didn't do nothing different. Amazing episode. There's a lot of funny moments, a lot of happy moments, trust me, a lot of sad moments towards the end. Like the ending is like the one part a lot of people talk about, but just in general, the whole episode was just phenomenal from start to finish. The way we care about I, because we learned so much about I, and the way we care about Ruby and Aqua, because we learned so much about them until we get to the very end where I passes away because she gets killed by that crazy fan, and it's just so sad. And we see like even the world's response, how there were people hating on her, and like how fast her death just disappeared because of snow happening. It just showed like how fast like the world moves on from like certain deaths and stuff like that. But boy, phenomenal first episode. And yeah, I could keep talking about this first episode because it was so damn good, and there's so many parts about it that was so enjoyable though. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, why not like? If you didn't, you could dislike, subscribe. Really enjoyed. But yes, Oshi no Koi episode 1 was phenomenal, and if you're not looking forward to the series, trust me, you need to be looking forward to the series because this is just the beginning. Like I said in the anime, this is just the prequel. Like I said in there, this was just the prelude to the actual real story that's going to be unfolding. And this is, trust me, this is going to most definitely be the best anime of this spring season, because out of all the anime I watched this season, this is the only one that made me go like generally just be like, whoa, oh my gosh, I'm excited to see the next episode. Besides Birdie Wing, because you know, if you guys know me, you know I fuck with Birdie Wing heavily. But besides Birdie Wing, of course, this is generally the first episode that made me really and generally just be like, yo, I can't wait for more, because it was that good. And it was one of the few first episodes this whole season that made me go like, wow, this is a good ass anime. Because a lot of the anime this season, yeah, they've had good episodes, but they really haven't hit like the way this was hitting. Because this was hitting me like, dog, I need to go out and buy me a whole bunch of merch, even though, you know, I have the manga. But I'm just like, I just wanted some stuff. It was just gave me that type of feel, and there hadn't been nothing this season that made me feel that type of way, the way this first episode made me feel though. I gotta be done talking about Oshi no Koi because I could go on so much more, because there was so much good stuff about this episode. And also the animation, of course, was really good, and there's a lot of scenes that it highlighted, of course, when I was telling you at the end when like the star is going out of her eyes. But overall, phenomenal first episode, and I feel like this would have not had the same impact if it would have been split up into like, you know, multiple different episodes. But this whole hour and 22 minutes, phenomenal. There's a lot of anime that should, you know, make their first episode over an hour. It'd probably help out their series a lot though. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next video though. Bye.